Shalom, shalom. First and foremost, I'd like to give all the honor and praise and glory to Yahweh, Hashem, Yahushua, Hashem, Hakadosh. Double honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone who did well. Peace and salutations to the elect scattered abroad. Alright, this is Brother Barbazal here with a lesson. And Lord willing, it's edifying. So today this lesson will be entitled, what separates the elect from the non-elect, or something, along those lines, right? So we're gonna get right into it, right? Matthew 20:16. So the last shall be first, and the first last. For many be called, but few chosen. All right, and I brought out this scripture first because, first and foremost, we know that the elect, is chosen from, the beginning of time, right? You ultimately have to be chosen by the Lord, okay? And you being chosen by the Lord by default, you're going to have those certain qualities, that the elect will have, that will separate you, amongst, the two-third multitude, all right? Going into the Israelites, okay? And when you get that word chosen, all right, it goes into that word electos. All right, elect. Okay, so let's get it. All right, it says picked out, chosen by Yahweh to obtain salvation through Hamashiach. All right, so only the elect is going to receive that salvation. Okay, now the whole quarter mile, turn left. Salakia. Now the whole nation, is going to be brought back, but that's going to happen in the kingdom. All right, on this side, all right, only the elect will be saved. Okay, the Messiah is called elect, as appointed by Yahweh to the most exalted office conceivable, choice, select, i.e. the best of his kind or class, excellence, preeminent, applied to certain individual Christians, where we know that the Israelites, right, are the true Christians. All right, not these anti-Christian, all right, the plantation Christianity that you see today. All right. So let's get another precept. All right. So this is the book of, we can get Romans 11:7. What then? Israel hath not obtained that which he seeketh for, but the election hath obtained it, and the rest were blinded. All right. You see. So while, the elect is being chosen, while the elect, will get it, will get this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right? While the elect will have the faith of the Lord, be the true believers, right? You have those who are blinded by the Lord, those who are never destined to get it. You got certain Israelites that's destined to get that judgment, okay? To be destroyed on this side, all right? This is the book of Matthew 7:13. It says, enter ye in at the straight gate, for wide is the gate and broad is the way that leadeth to destruction, and many there be which go in thereat. Because straight is the gate and narrow is the way which leadeth unto life, and few there be that find it. Yeah, few there be that find it. Only the elect is going to find it. All right. It's easy to go the broad way. We living in a society where, wickedness is the norm. Okay. You can be a mole with no consequences. You can commit bestiality with no consequences, right? Commit adultery with no consequences. We live in a society that, that was, tailor-made, in going off, right? Going against the laws, statutes, and commandments of Yahweh Ba'ashim Yahushua, man. All right. And the elect, all right, is going to stand out. Why? Because, they ain't going to, conform to this place. They're going to be transformed. Okay. You still got certain Israelites who's believes that they Israelites, right? That know that they Israelites, but they like to pick and choose, certain things that they don't like, right? Oh, it could be anything. It could be, the Lord's name, right? It could be, they want to save, they want all nations to be saved, right? You know, it could be little things that, that they don't believe, right, that they'll be offended by. Okay? And the Lord ain't dealing with that, And if you offended by this truth, you offended what come out. Oh, I'm an Israelite, but I believe I'm an Israelite, but hey, the Lord ain't dealing with that, man. Okay? You don't got the right spirit on you. All right? You got certain individuals who, they know about the truth, but then, they have, wicked ulterior motives, right? You got those who sold the bag, you got those who, are in this thing for monetary gain. All right, to be seen for a status, for carnal reasons. All right, and not the, being sincere in this thing, right? Because you got to have the right spirit on you. Okay? The Lord is dealing with those who are in the spirit, right? In sincerity and truth. Okay? Not guys who came out of nowhere, right? Giving themselves, certain titles and exalting themselves, and down the line, they get exposed. Okay? The Lord is dealing with, the humble, the meek. All right? Those who are truly seeking the Lord in truth and sincerity, man. All right? That acknowledge the Lord, right? That acknowledge the Lord's sacrifice, So this is the book of Zechariah 13, and we can start at 8. And it shall come to pass that in all the land, saith the Lord, all right, this is going into Babylon the Great, 2 parts therein shall be cut off and die, right, going into the 2/3 multitude, but the third shall be left therein. Is going into the elect, all right, and we know that the elect is known as a remnant. Okay, it's only a small remnant, that'll be saved, that'll get this truth. All right. Now 2/3 of our people, they're gonna have to be cut off and die on this side. And it says, and I will bring the third part through the fire, and will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried. And currently we're going through that, right? That refining process, being tried, right? Our faith being tried, catching hell, right? But it's all to, refine us. All right. It's all to get us ready, to, the hour of temptation, right? It's all getting us ready to have that, to truly live by our faith, which that'll happen, in Jacob's trouble, But now it's the time to, take advantage of this grace period, right? And be in good standing with Yahweh Bashim Yahushua. This the mindset that the elect will have, They shall call on my name, and I will hear them, which the name of the Lord is Yahweh, all right? The Most High name being Yahweh, all right? And the only begotten Son name being Yahushua, right? I will say it is my people, and they shall say the Lord is my power. Okay? So let's get one more precept, and then we're going to end it. All right, this is Romans 12:1. It says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Yahweh, that ye present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy, acceptable unto Yahweh, which is your reasonable service. All right. And, being a man of the Lord, all right, it ain't an easy task. All right. You're going to have, you're going to be at variance with your family. Okay. You're going to be demonized. All right. Slandered. Okay. Going out in the highways and hedges. All right. You're going to have people who want to cause harm to you. Things like that. All right. Now we believe that the Lord, he got us through it all. However, we're going to have to still go through certain things as part of what? That refining process. Right. It's part of making our bodies a reasonable, a living sacrifice, which is our reasonable service. Salakia. Verse 2, and be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that ye may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Yahweh. All right, so you have to be truly renewed. Okay, when you come into this truth, you can't hold on to certain, Western philosophies. You can't hold on to, certain things that you was involved in the world. All right. Certain things, you wicked. All right. You got certain chicks who can't stop eating pork, can't stop eating shellfish. All right. You got certain Jake who want to believe that all the nations can be saved. You got certain Jake who believe that the law is done away with. All right. And you notice that, a lot of these Jakes, whatever they hold on to, that's not a part of, the will and power of Yahweh Bashim Yahushua is because of their own, wicked lust, man. Carnal lust, man. Okay. You gotta be coming to this thing as a newborn babe. All right. Everything that we've, pretty much, 90%, 99% of things that we grew up to learn that was right and wrong. All right. Was wicked. All right. What we grew up to think was right, was acceptable, was wicked. Okay. That's why you have to be, transformed. Okay. Be willing, to receive the milk, which goes into this wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, right? Being that newborn babe. Okay. But that's, the lesson, Lord willing, that was edifying. All right. So with that, I'd like to give all the honor, the praise, and glory unto Yahweh by Hashem, Yahweh Shai by Hashem, Rakakodash. Shalom.